My name is Kenneth G. Ransom, and my title is ISS Ham Radio Project Coordinator.
What's your call sign?
My call sign is November 5, Victor Hotel Oscar. Well, we are celebrating the fact that we have had humans in space operating amateur radio for 40 years. It all started with STS-9 with Owen Garriott, W5LFL. His very first event was back in December of 1983. And so we have been doing ham radio events with humans in orbit ever since then, and there have been multiple titles associated with the organizations that have supported those, but that's what we're celebrating, is the vast history of doing those sort of activities.
Okay, why is there this connection between ham radio and human spaceflight?
A lot of that is because of Owen Garriott, as I mentioned earlier on. He wanted to do ham radio from space. Now, we've had satellites up there, and we knew some of the activities, but he was wanting to add the personal connection to that. So he had actually advocated putting ham radio on Skylab. Unfortunately, that proved to be a little bit cost prohibitive. So the next opportunity was the shuttles, and so that's where they started it off. And it has grown, morphed, and expanded over those years.
Okay.
Suddenly realizing my visor was getting fogged up. My heart rate was running 140, 50, 60 times 170.
My name is Nicole Stott, and my call sign is KE5GJN.
Nicole, tell me about your background as an astronaut.
Well, background as an astronaut, I was selected in 2000 into the 18th group of NASA astronauts, and I flew twice on the Space Shuttle and International Space Station, and had the chance to do ham radio while I was there. Well, I'll tell you, my background as a ham radio operator is directly associated with my background as an astronaut. I was really first introduced to it as part of my training for the International Space Station, with the hope of being able to engage in some sessions with students, people here on Earth, and very happy for it. It was some of the best, I think, ability to outreach, engaging with kids I never probably would have otherwise, and kind of opening up that, that means of communication, which is what I think spaceflight and the way we work there is all about, understanding this interconnectivity of everything and then figuring out how to connect as much as we can.
So tell me about the ham station on the, the shuttle, the ISS, or what?
It was on the ISS, and unlike my colleagues, who you will probably speak to, I don't remember if it was a Kenwood or an Ericsson or anything like that. But I remember it being very, and thanks to the training we had here on Earth, just very straightforward to use. I remember floating in was one of the Russian segments is where we had the radio mounted and were able to make these connections, and being able to float there and speak to people on Earth, and always wondering every time I used it, how you've got kind of that goes in between, like how could you get such really beautiful, clear connectivity with people when in between there's this sound, and I was always surprised and really in awe of that.
Well, the hams you talked to on the ground must have been tremendously excited.
You know, I think people are, and again, the ability to talk to people all over the world in a way that we wouldn't really have otherwise. I think there's a cool side of the fact that you have just a very limited amount of time that you're going to maintain that connection with whoever it is you're talking to there, and especially with students, kind of this need to really feel like you can talk to as many are there that have questions. So you don't want to go yes, no, blue, earth, whatever, but really be able to connect in a way that allows the most, the most students to talk to you too. Well, it's the 40th anniversary of ham on the space station, or in space, I guess, not just the space station, starting back with Mir. And I think it's a celebration of the way we can bring people together, that are on Earth and in space, and do that in a really positive way that allows us to kind of spread the message of all we're doing in space that's off the Earth for the Earth to as many people as possible here on Spaceship Earth.
It probably helped that he was 5'8".
Well, no, they were bigger in the Apollo program.
Name Mike Fincke, right?
That's exactly it.
Call sign.
KE5AIT. I started the astronaut program when I was 29 years old in 1996. I've gotten to fly in space 3 times, and I'm going again soon. The first 2 times were on Soyuz with the Russians, and then I got to fly on the second to last space shuttle, STS-134, and I'm going to go fly on a Boeing Starliner very soon. I did not know anything about amateur radio. I wasn't a ham until I was nominated to go on my first mission. We were going to be Expedition 10. We got pulled early by 6 months to go fly on Expedition 9. We had just a few months to get ready. My wife was pregnant. It was a very busy time, but I knew that I wanted to get my license. So with the help of the folks in Houston, I was able to get my license just before launch, got aboard space, and had no idea what I was getting into. But as soon as I started talking with people all over the world and school contacts, I knew I made the right choice. So when we're up in space, we are terribly busy. So it's we don't have a lot of time to think about how our ham radio is set up, how our equipment is set up. But fortunately, we have some good procedures, and we get experience, so we can just pick up the radio and start turn a few dials and knobs and start talking to anyone on the planet. And it's a real joy. CQ, somebody always answers. The Kenwood 700 was the one I used the most. We had it at that time aboard the service module of the International Space Station. That's in the Russian segment, Russian territory. And it was really handy because that's when I was up there, that's the only place that we had a galley, a place to eat. So we'd start our food getting warm. We have these little food warmers, or rehydrated. We put in some water, and then we would have to wait 10 or 15 minutes. Perfect time to pick up the radio and talk to a new friend.
It's called Space for Art. I wanted to share not just like here's what Nicole
To Nicole's work for Kenneth, I just wanted to give you a personal thanks, and I could probably extend from all of us for your fine work in helping us to be better astronauts and helping make the bridge through the amateur radio for all the school contacts for everything that you do. So I was one of your first students, so thank you, Kenneth.
Thank you very much. Okay, so if you're up, we're going to go straight into it.
So I think there's a lot of video out there about people, how excited they get when we make a contact with them. We don't have so much video of how excited we get when we make a contact on Earth. I mean, one of the first ones I ever met was in Saskatchewan, Canada. I don't know anybody in Canada, but now I do. And it was a farmer, and he was on his big combine, and he had a few moments to talk to the space station. That's really cool.
All right, is it still possible for hams to make contact with, let's say, the ISS, the International Space Station?
Yes, it is. There's the ISS frequencies, and we usually have someone aboard the space station who's a qualified radio operator. And when we get time, we still call down. And I know when I'm up there next year, I'm going to make an extra effort to share the joy of flying in space with my friends on Earth. Amateur radio has always been on the forefront of technology and bringing people together. That's kind of like the space program. But especially 40 years ago, we had an astronaut, Owen Garriott, who was a radio specialist and as well as an amateur radio operator, and he was able to work so that there was, along with the rest of the team, a ham radio aboard the Space Shuttle. And that opened up the door for amateur radio in space, and we've continued it on for 40 years, and it only gets better. We've had thousands and thousands of contacts with schools, talking to millions of people across planet Earth and sharing what it's like to fly in space. And my thanks are out to the entire amateur radio community across beautiful planet Earth. This is KE5AIT signing off 7 3s.